Welcome back to another Anime Rambles. Today we are going to be talking about World Trigger, more specifically, Borders Defenses. Now, a lot of interesting things happen in World Trigger. It has one of my favorite power systems in all of anime, and it is an interesting show to watch, and I highly recommend it for everyone. Today, you don't really need to watch it in order to understand what we're going to be talking about today, but for what we're doing is we're going to be taking Border's defenses as a whole. This building right here. Border does a very interesting strategy of defense. They literally put all of their eggs in one basket, and this is the heavily fortified basket that is Border headquarters. Now, because of the way Border is set up, they are set up to combat threats from other worlds that use portals to teleport in, and they can focus all the portals around Border headquarters so they can focus anyone who tries to invade. Now, this is very good for Border because it means they can have all their agents on site and not spread themselves thin, which means this building right here is incredibly heavily fortified. So, why is this important? Well, we're going to be taking other anime characters, groups, organizations, and pitting them up against Borders. I'm not interested in how Goku does against Border because he can one shot the entirety of Border in a single Kamehameha. I want to see things that are roughly on the same level as Border and how they would stack up against Border's defenses with what they have at their disposal and how Border might react. So here we have Border. It's incredibly armored, very hard to infiltrate, very hard to get into, very thick, very hard to break. We have the pyramid up here for the Border hierarchy. There are about 120 people that you should be worrying about if you are trying to loot Border. Border is not one large unit, it's many small units that work really well as small teams, but also work fantastically as larger group cooperative efforts. Um, let's talk about some of the weapons that border agents use. So these are some border agents from different groups, and each one of them typically has a different group dynamic and studies the triggers that they use. These are triggers in a different way. All triggers look pretty visually similar, but they have a few core components that are similar. They have about, I believe, 8 module slots, and in those module slots, you can basically have it activate into a sword or a utility item or a gun or a sniper. So first, we have this weapon, and this is called the Ray Gust. It's like a lance that, if you activate it, it has a boost forward option, and it can convert to a shield. It also has multiple different swords for heavier cutting, faster movement, uh, general options. It has something called a shooter mode, where you can just create a cube that breaks into smaller bits of Trion energy, and it can go home, or you can manipulate it to divert and attack enemies. You can also use your triggers to make shields to protect yourself from these. Then you have guns and snipers, some of which are incredibly powerful, depending on how you want to use them, how much Trion they consume. There is a wide variety of options for border agents to use, and they can pick and adapt any one of these to suit how they want to fight or their team composition, which makes border incredibly dangerous if you want to go up against them. But who? Who do we have who could possibly rival our border agents? Well, first group I want to talk about is the Straw Hat Crew versus the Border Agents. Now, for this exercise, we are going to be going in a pre-time skip mindset because I feel like hockey is too much of a variable to know how it would affect Trion weapons and stuff. Well, we have for this scenario, we're going to assume that the Straw Hat Crew blinks into Border's reality, and they think that Border is the Marines, a special sect of the Marines. So they want to, let's say, for this example, Luffy believes someone he cares about, someone the Straw Hats cares about, is being held by the Marines, and then that's when blink, they're in a new reality, and now they believe that these are the Marines that they have to fight. So this scenario forces the Straw Hats to fight instead of running away. Okay, now that that's established, let's talk about how this fight would go. All right, the Straw Hats don't have that many crew members, and we are talking about pre-time skip. So they're not all broken powerful either. But in Border's tactics based warfare, where they mainly relied on heavily like anticipation of moves, countering enemy moves, basically thinking of a war grounds like chess. I feel like the Straw Hats are going to immediately throw them off the rhythm. Someone who just runs in with all these unique powers is immediately going to throw Border for a huge loop. And I would say Luffy is at least going to take out most of the B ranks before they adapt to the Straw Hats and this current threat. It's going to be jarring to know that they don't use triggers, and then I feel like the A ranks are all going to converge around different members of the Straw Hats, focusing on each one. Now, I would say probably the easiest ones for Border to deal with is probably going to be Brook, Nami, Usopp, and I hesitate to say Sanji. Chopper, probably. I would say these members get eliminated immediately, immediately get captured or incapacitated in some way, shape, and form. And even if they do take out like all the Border members, they have an evacuation function. So if they lose too much Tryon energy, they beam out and go back to where they are safe, which is where they can recover, recuperate. And in this big, big building, it's going to be very difficult, even with everything the Straw Hats can do. And there's not really too much water around here for the Sunny to like shoot a beam at it. So I feel like it's going to take a hot minute for Luffy to even break in using Gear 3, third gear. So I would say that even if he does like take out most of the B ranks, they're going to be back within a few hours and they're going to be right back on top of them. Now, I feel like the biggest variables in this fight are definitely going to be Luffy and Nico, Robin, and Frankie, because they're not going to be expecting devil fruit powers. And that's going to be probably the most jarring thing for them. Seeing Luffy stretch and Nico Robin, Cien Le Fleur, and then just immediately take out half their agents. Because sure, the border agents have shields that they can activate, but they need to know which direction the attack's coming from. They make a huge shield all around them. It's going to be wasting exuberant amounts of Tryon energy. Uh, but if they know which direction something's coming from, it's pretty easy to block it. But Luffy's Gum Gun Gatling, and especially Nico Robin, where she can just sprout arms out from people, it's not going to end well. I think there's, I think like at the beginning of this fight, the Straw Hats are going to be powering through Border, just plowing through them. And then once the heavy hitters of Border come out, especially with their combination attacks, most of the big One Piece battles boil down to 1v1s in between like the most powerful enemies. In Border attacks, it never boils down that way. It always ends up with a squad versus an adversary or another squad. And I feel like with the flawless Border like combat, especially with like their way to communicate without speaking, It's going to be a huge, exhausting fight for Luffy, Zoro, um, everyone. I feel like it's going to be near impossible for them to actually infiltrate border and quote unquote win the fight. I feel like they're slowly going to get drained over time and they're going to run out of energy. So I would say border is going to take it's not going to be an easy fight, not even a little bit. But I feel like border is going to end up coming out on top in this encounter. Okay. So next group, let's talk about let's go to My Hero. So we have class 1A, and I feel like class 1A alone isn't really enough for this comparison. So actually, let's talk about 1A, and if they need a boost, we'll give it to them then. 1A is filled with a lot of these fledgling heroes, and they are perfectly adept at strategy and taking out villains. However, we're always expecting other quirks, other people to be throwing their hat into a ring via some sort of superpower or ability that they don't quite understand and they need to work around it, which is really good if you're fighting border because you kind of they have a general theme to everything they do, but there's so much variety in options that they can pick. Sometimes it's exceedingly difficult for our for an opponent to guess what they specialize in or what they're going to do. Um, I feel like obviously let's pull out our biggest contenders in class 1A at the moment. So we're gonna be going with um, perhaps current manga stuff is a little bit too OP. We're gonna go with current anime class 1A. So we have Deku, Todoroki, Bakugo, and I would say probably after Bakugo, probably Tokiyami and maybe Yaoyorozu are the most powerful. And then after them, Kirishima and Sato. Now, I feel like Todoroki is absolutely going to dominate most border agents. B agents probably going to go out first to meet them. Todoroki is going to freeze them all to the ground, and they're immediately going to bail out and be out of there instantly. Like, there's no way they can even remotely stand a chance. And I feel like by the time one of them gets damaged, you're going to realize that they all have like Tryon bodies, and they're going to take advantage of this situation to just no hold bars, just tear through them, which is where Ashido and Tokuyami and Bakugo are really going to start expanding on what they can do because they don't have to worry about not killing anymore. They're just going to start plowing through all these border agents. Now, when it comes to teamwork of the higher ranked agents, I feel like it's going to be a lot more of a problem. But I feel like with Deku's smash attacks, I don't think their shields can hold up to something that astronomically strong. Like I feel like during this whole battle, like Border has a lot of snipers, and they are constantly going to be draining away at Class 1A. And I'm looking at them right now. I'm trying to think if they have a way to deal with a long range unit. And sure, they have Jiro. Actually, yeah, they have Jiro. So staying in cover shouldn't be too difficult for them. And I feel like they're eventually going to get close enough to border, and then either Todoroki is going to melt the doors, Bakugo is going to explode the doors, Kirishima is just going to tear the doors apart, Ashido can dissolve the doors. I feel like they're going to be able to get into border fairly easily. However, when it comes to borders' internal defenses and the other agents inside borders, I feel like it's going to be far more difficult for them to move through. But I feel like overall, they are going to in my head it's a 50-50 shot. Like borders are either going to figure them out immediately and take them out like slowly and just continuously drain them, or class 1A is going to move as a complete unit and just absolutely curb stomp all of border. Like there's no other options in my mind. So let's move on to the Survey Corps or the Scouts in Attack on Titan. So in this comparison, we are going to have to make a few distinctions. We are going to be talking about the Survey Corps as a unit. We're not going to be talking about any individual members except for one, which is Eren Yeager in Titanfall. We're going to give just, let's say, 50 members. Let's match it up. We'll go 100 members, 120 members of the Scout Corps, which throughout all the times we've been seeing the Scout Corps, there's definitely been that much members to pull in this pool, plus Eren Yeager. Now, the Scouts have incredible maneuverability. Most of their battlefield, however, is going to be like suburbs, small houses, which they are going to be able to absolutely fling around in, but it's going to be a lot lower than they're mainly used to in their typical 3-4 story buildings in the districts in Attack on Titan. However, Border itself is like a big wall they can swing around on. If they keep the fight towards Borders and the urban surrounding area, I feel like they have a strong opportunity with their incredible speed and their ability to maneuver on a dime to be able to pick off the Border agents that are focusing on Eren as they fly around the battlefield. Especially with the strategic minds on both sides, I feel like it's going to be a strong contender for what is going on. So for I forgot to give context for My Hero Acca one. For My Hero Acca, they're going to be assuming that Border are villains. For the Scout Regimen, they are going to assume that the Border agents are Marleyan assassins or rebels or an elite unit again. And they have been, they arrive at this city and they just know they not sure really quite what's going on, but Border is going to assume that their neighbors attacked them first, and then if they try to question, they're going to bail out, and it's going to be mainly a misunderstanding fight until they find the Border's leaders. Okay, so with this, if it was just Eren Yeager alone, I feel like he would be taken down pretty quickly. But with the powers of the Titan, he would come back pretty quick because even if you cut off his hand, pull him down, unless you get the nape of that neck, and that's inside knowledge that Border doesn't have, he's going to keep on getting back up. Of course, they're eventually going to start prodding at him, trying to find what the hell's the right spot. But if you have the entire might of the Survey Corps working with him, especially using him as a grapple point for their maneuver gear, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Especially, yeah, it I feel like the Scouts are going to take this from Border. Like they might not have like the insane technology of triggers, but the sheer like maneuverability and skill the Scouts have, I feel like outweigh the tactics at Border. Mm. Yeah, I feel like they are just going to use groups to focus on one person at a time and just use their incredible speed to outmaneuver the Border agents. Sure, some of the Border agents are as fast, but nowhere near as fast as using maneuver gear. The swords are going to be a bit of a drawback, especially if they run out of blades and gas. They definitely can't last a battle of attrition. But if they have a short burst fight and they just charge right at Border, Eren's going to rip that fucking thing and they can all move in. The problem is, inside is going to be a lot more difficult of a fight. If they keep the battle outside and then move in when the forces start to get light, that's when they're going to have Border on the ropes. So I would say in this, I would give the Scouts a 70% chance of winning and Border a 30% chance. Next, we are going to go to the roaches from Terraform Mars. Now, these roaches are insane. They fly, they're hella strong. Like, they are expressionless, emotionless, killing machines. And for this example, we're going to try to pair them up with a group of them that seems like a fair number. which for this example, we'll give about 30 roaches. I feel like would illustrate the best chance Border has of just not completely outweighing them. So in the anime World Trigger, there is a similar enemy to the roaches, nowhere near as strong, that shows up, and they kind of learn the trick to dealing with them. And I feel like Border would be able to use her triggers to deal with the roaches quite effectively, but their sheer size and speed alone would be able to absolutely obliterate most of the B rank classes. The best chance Border has is if they use their B rank agents as a uh, defense to slow down most of the roaches, and then have the A ranks group up together, taking them down one by one. So the B rank agents act as a distraction as the A rank agents move one at a time. Of course, the roaches could just group up and just annihilate everyone in a group and then just storm Border and kill everyone inside. So I would say this battle was about a 50-50 chance. No real interesting things to talk about here. Obviously, Varoches would just appear here and then just kill to kill, and they would assume that they're all neighbors. Next one is a lot more interesting. We're going to be talking about the Black Bulls from Black Clover. Now, when it comes to teamwork, Border agents for sure have the Black Bulls beat. In the Magic Knights, the Black Bulls might have the best teamwork out of almost every Magic Knight squad. But when it comes to Border agents, they have teamwork that far surpasses any of them. But the big boost that the Black Bulls have is the fact that their magic is far more powerful than any of the triggers in World Trigger. I would say the people who have the biggest advantage is definitely Luck, Gray, Gauche, and Yami. These four members are who we're going to be focusing on. Asta has raw physical strength. He's probably stronger than any border agent physically, and he's got that big sword. But the border agents are smarter and they move with a lot more tactics. And anti magic doesn't work against Tryon. We could assume that it does, but I don't think that would be a fair comparison. So I feel like who's going to get captured almost immediately is probably going to be Asta, Charmy, Gauche, and hmm, I want to say Finral. Yeah, I would say Finral. Now, if Gray transforms into a border agent and sneaks inside, I feel like she is a high chance of being able to get close to the leaders because they simply would not expect something like this to happen. They would start to expect it where we are in the anime, but I don't think that would be. I don't think they would assume that this is something that can happen. Now, I feel like Luck alone it could take out at least, let's say, one squad of A ranks and half the B ranks because of his sheer speed, battle tendency, and his sheer will to fucking fight. Like he is a one man killing machine. Magma would be a little bit harder because I believe their shields are enough to deflect most of his smaller attacks, and I don't think he would be able to do well under heavy suppressive fire. Vanessa can literally manipulate reality itself, so she's going to be the biggest part of their defense against the snipers, just causing them to miss. Um, Charmy and Gordon, I don't really think they can do much. Like their Tryon bodies that they use isn't really susceptible to curse magic that Gordon uses, and Charmy has always been pretty useless in most fights unless it specifically involves food. Now Yami is going to like I don't think shields work against Yami at all, especially with like everything he can do. Now, them being able to fly is going to be a huge bonus, but it's also going to put them in a huge open space in the air. Overall, I would say there's a lot of variables to consider here. I don't know what I would give to each one. I'm trying to think of like how a typical squad, like Arashiyama squad, would deal with a member? Like, how would they deal with Noel? It would take some adapting, and like Black Bulls move quick and powerful. I would say the Black Bulls would probably win. They'd probably come out on top. There's a lot more members of Border, but I feel like Yami would just fucking annihilate most of them. And with Luck and Gauche and Noel, I don't think they would stand a chance against like that kind of power. Just sheer force of will. So I would give the Black Bulls an 80% chance of coming out on top if they move quickly. If Border has time to advance, I would give them a 20% chance. The reason to fight is they would believe that they were going up against an enemy kingdom, such as the Spades or another devil, and they would believe that the triggers are the powers of the devils as well. So they would be trying to find who the devil is that's controlling all these people. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about Akame ga Kill's Night Raid. Now, I feel like Night Raid probably has the best chance of winning, not in a straight up fight. In a straight up fight, their members would do really well against individual squads. Each one is really good, and if it was a squad versus squad battle, or even like 5 squads on one, they would come out on top every way. But Border simply has the manpower to shut them down pretty easily. It's one of the reasons why in the show Akame ga Kill, they don't go up against militant forces because they simply do not have the manpower. They have great weapons and great techniques and incredibly like versatile fighting skills, but they simply do not have the DPS against large groups of people to dish it out for that long. A prolonged battle would not work to Night Raid's favor. But here's where Night Raid comes in clutch. They are not a combatant force. They are a group of heavily armed assassins. They would sneak into the building, they would find who the leader is, stalk them home, and just start eliminating members one by one in the shadows. I don't even think Border would understand what would happen. I feel like they would win by just finding the leaders and taking them out instead of focusing on all the small fry. Now, Border would be down for a huge fight, and that's what they'd be expecting. But Akame ga Kill is going to be able to just Night Raid is going to be able to just eliminate all the upper management without Border agents knowing what the hell happened. Now, the reason why they would attack is they would believe that these are new. They would pop into a world and they would get information that Border is um, a special unit made by the king to hunt down Night Raid, and that is why they would go up against them. And one of the reason why they got transported is due to what the hell are the special weapons called? A legendary vassal or something. I can't remember. It's been too long since I watched the show. But yeah, I think that is it for today. Oh, I need to give them the odds. If Night Raid sticks to Assassination, I would give them a 95% chance. Only a 5% chance if Border gets lucky to notice that they're in the building before they make their move. If it's in a straight up fight, I would give Border a 100% chance of victory. Like, they would be able to take out a few groups of B agents, but A rank agents are so powerful, so good at their job, especially if multiple start together. I don't think they would stand a chance. All right, well, that is it for today. If you like the video, hit the like button. Leave a comment below if you think there's another group of anime characters who are on a similar level of Border who I should have put in the video. I would love to hear what you think, and comment which one of the shows I talked about is your favorite, because why not? World Trigger is a great show. I highly recommend everyone check it out. I've been Bottlecap. Yeah, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye bye.